Hey guys, I'm here with David Potenza, the Vice President of Peak Longevity. David, we're excited to have you on, man. I'm really excited to geek out on this stuff and discuss exactly what it is that Peak does. So tell us about yourself, your history, kind of how you got involved in
Sure.
this, but more importantly, who is David and what have you been doing in the past?
I've been in healthcare 35 years. I had actually met one of the original founders of the company several years ago and literally fell in love with what he was doing. I was senior vice president of Kimberly Clark, senior vice president of Baxter Healthcare, combined for over 25 years. So I served in big public companies in the healthcare space. And how Steve, the owner of who the founder, had kept coming up and saying, "Look, why don't you drive from Dallas to Oklahoma, where we had one clinic," and said, "Come on up and get scanned." And I was just fascinated with his story, and I'll digress a little bit. His story started off with his mom had cancer over 15 years ago. She was unresponsive to treatments. Did what any one of us would have done, is stop the doctor and said, "What else is it? Is it money? Do we have to go overseas? Is there some study I can enroll in?" And the doctor looked him in the face and said, "If we had only caught it earlier." And unfortunately, his mom had passed away, and he realized that there was medical technology out there that you could detect early signs of diseases like cancer and heart disease, metabolic disease, but it wasn't really available to the general public because unfortunately our insurance dictated healthcare system waits till you have a symptom before they offer any care.
More reactive type stuff.
Yeah, and you're chasing it. Usually the first sign of heart disease is a heart attack. There's 450,000 people a year die suddenly with no prior symptoms. So he took it on his mission and said, there's got to be a better way, and started the company 15 years ago. It's staffed with interventional radiologists, interventional cardiologists, etc. So anyways, I loved what he was doing because it made so much sense. Like, why wouldn't you want to get out in front of this stuff? And for 2 years, he had invited me to go to Oklahoma City to come on up and get scanned, and I was in my early 50s. And I said, why? I was perfectly healthy. I was in great shape. I skied multiple times a year, water skied on the weekends, played golf 2 or 3 times a week. People would ask, "Who's your doctor?" I said, "I don't have a doctor." And they're like, "Why would I go to a doctor? I'm not sick."
Yeah.
And by chance, I decided to take him up on it. And I ended up getting scanned, and they found cancer. And, I tell people the story. Here I was again. I thought I was perfectly healthy. I knew my own body. I eat well. But I was numb. Like they said, "You have cancer." And so I tell the story of the hardest part for this journey was I was in an MRI. They have a little mirror above you, and I'm looking at it, and it's literally the first day they told me, "I think you have cancer. You're going to pathology, going to MRI." It was like a whirlwind. And I was looking in this little mirror like, am I going to die? What's this going to mean? Like, what's the outcome? How am I going to tell my kids? How am I going to tell my wife? And an overwhelming feeling of guilt came over me because for 2 years I put off trying to go get scanned. And I had every opportunity to do it. It was a 2.5 hour drive. And I made every excuse in the world. I'm fine, I'm busy, I'll get to it next week. And I had to face the reality that I had to confess to my wife and to my kids that this is really no one's fault except my own for being lazy, being arrogant, and just not making it a priority. And that was the hardest part, quite frankly, of the whole journey, was this idea that I had an opportunity to do something about it, and I was just lazy.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I can relate to that because, I mean, the founder story is very similar to mine. I actually have heard David speak from the stage or the podium a few times at the Boardroom Mastermind. Great messages, by the way, eye-opening, right? So you did your job because you converted me, and I've had all the tests done. But same thing with my father. My father, about a year and a half ago, 68 years old, extremely healthy. He's a cowboy, a man's man. He's a rancher.
Right.
Was working on the ranch every day. He got dizzy out of nowhere, and they thought he had a stroke. He went in. They treated him for a stroke. He came home, and he was just getting worse and worse. And from what I researched with the stroke, you naturally will either hold or you'll progressively get a little bit better, but you're normally not going downhill from there. And so he went back in and found out, he had stage 4 cancer, and it was all over. I mean, it was in his brain, it was
Yeah.
all over his organs. And so he went from being diagnosed to passing within 3 months. I got chills just saying that because, that was the other thing. It was perfect timing for you to go and deliver that message at the podium at the boardroom meeting because, it spoke to me. I was just going through this or had gone through this with my father. And I thought, man, I mean, again, to your point, like, I've got to make sure that I prioritize this and get this done for my family. I had a lot of flack because my wife also went and did the test with me. And she was the type, which I'm sure you've heard this 100 times, where she was like, I don't want to know. I don't, like, if I have something, I don't want to know.
Eventually, you're going to know.
Well, I asked her, I said, do you want to see the kids get married? Right? Do you want to see your grandchildren? Do you want to see the kids graduate high school? And so, thinking about that, right, that, if she finds something, just to your point, obviously, I mean, was that like a stage 1 or what did they find?
For me, I was right on the edge of stage 3. When they first told me my outcomes, if you look at the data, I had about a 23% chance of surviving 5 years. And I, by the grace of God, just caught it early and just early enough. Now, it was a long journey. It was 4.5 months of radiation. It was surgery. But that was 10 years ago. I got to see my kids go to college, and I like spending time with my wife and my family. And the doctor had told me that if we hadn't have caught it when we did, the outcomes probably would have been very different. I've got another personal story. 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, I had to go bury a 40-year friend. He's from upstate New York, out of Buffalo, and wanted to come down. He was going to come visit us. Kept putting it off. Hey, I want to wait till the school year ends. I've got some time in the springtime. I'm coming down. We'll make a trip out of it. We'll stop in Dallas. And it was, delay after delay. Sort of life got in the way. And he had retired, made a bunch of cash, was on vacation with his family, came home, said he wasn't feeling well. His wife drove him to the hospital, and he died in the ER from a heart attack.
Wow. And that's a gentleman that, again, had the test right there at his exposure.
It was just, you and I have talked about this in the past, is that, so many people fail to prioritize their own health. And a lot of them fail to find the resources, the money to allocate towards it. I said a guy will go spend $2,000 to have the oil changed on his Ferrari or his Lamborghini or buy his new Rolex, but yet spend money on himself to be around long enough to enjoy it. It's just amazing how many people put it off until they're staring at that little mirror going, God, I wish I had only done something.
It's amazing, right? People are, from the finance world, or even somebody that's just a W-2, they have a normal job, they're saving their whole life for this nest egg for their retirement, right? But, they're not promised that they're going to be there for that retirement.
Number one reason for personal bankruptcy in the United States is unexpected medical expenses.
Yeah, no, it's great. For me personally, I know that I had to draw the parallel. Obviously, I just went through the experience with my father. I knew that there was somebody in boardroom that unfortunately, went and did these tests months prior to me taking the test, and they were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I think they have since passed, which...
Yep, unfortunately, she had gone to a big box, if you would, healthcare system out in California, and they basically wouldn't give her the testing or treatment because she didn't really have major symptoms, and they were like, well, let's just keep an eye on it for the next several months and come see us in 6 months, and we'll kind of go from there. And she was like, I'm not feeling well and I'm not getting better. I'm not waiting 6 months. And sure enough, we found her with stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Wow. Yeah, and that's, Walk me through, and we'll get through some of we'll talk about some of the different tests and exactly what you guys do, kind of the meat
Sure.
and potatoes. But before we do that, we've talked about a lot of the common objections because I know the objections that I had internally, and a lot of it was just time, right? And then we've talked about, these things are not cheap. Insurance, it's generally a cash pay. Isn't this a cash pay procedure or procedures?
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I naturally checked with my insurance. They, said no, right? But the most objections, it's either the time to do it or it's the money to do it because they're not cheap. So what is one? I mean, there's different levels to this. Like we went in pretty heavy. I started with the gene test. Can you kind of walk us through that? To me, that's like the
Sure.
gateway to
Yeah,
this.
so chronic diseases, you don't catch a chronic disease, it catches you. And so it doesn't happen like a cold. Like a cold, all of a sudden, one day I'm feeling okay, and the next day I've got sniffles and symptoms and things like that. Chronic diseases sneak up on you, and they sneak up on you over a lifetime. And they're influenced by all sorts of things: your genetic history, your environmental exposures, your lifestyle has a big role to do it, your diet, exercise, body mass, lots of variables. And unfortunately, for many of us, we either don't recognize symptoms or we ignore them. We say to ourselves, geez, I just don't want to know, like your wife had sort of mentioned, and it's an odd thing to say. Or we just chalk it up to getting older. I'm just getting older. We start to feel tired. We don't sleep as well. I've got a lump, but it doesn't really hurt. Yeah, I should probably go do something about that. But we just put it off. And so the biggest thing for us is procrastination, is that
Hmm.
people just put it off until something chronic happens, or there's a life event that happened around them. Brother, father, mother, sister, somebody ends up getting cancer, someone dies of a heart disease, and all of a sudden it's this stark reality. And that's this motivator. When we talk about money, our clinics are staffed by medical doctors, so we have interventional radiologists, interventional cardiology, functional medicine doctors. We've got almost $12 million worth of the most advanced medical equipment. And we started this journey because there's no one single test that can tell you really a comprehensive view of your health. And a lot of people go, well, I go to my doctor, I get a physical every year, I get some blood work, I'm fine. And unfortunately, that's just really not the way the body works. And so how we built our program is we call it a parallax. And a parallax is looking at an object from multiple points of view to get its most accurate measurement. And so we start off with really looking at your physical health. So we use advanced scanning technologies to scan your brain, scan your whole body. And again, we're looking for early signs of cancer, heart disease, about 150 other different diseases that are starting to manifest that really haven't expressed themselves yet into chronic symptoms. So I look at your physical health. Second thing is that I want to look at your metabolic health. So how is your body functioning? How's the plumbing? How's the electrical circuits working? So we do a 103 panel blood test, which if you went to your doctor, typically they do 20 to maybe 25. We get very, very deep into the cellular level, the hormone levels, because that's really the telling story. Some of it, if you only do the 20 to 25 panel blood test, that's usually telling you symptoms. It's not telling you root cause.
Yeah.
We want to figure out if we can get to root cause. We then do a gut biome test. So a lot of disease states now, and there's tons of data on this, emanate from the gut. How do we process foods? How do we process toxins? Do we process certain foods? And so I want to check your gut biome. A lot of gut biomes linked to a lot of diseases, even Parkinson's, Alzheimer's disease, cognitive dysfunction. Another test that we run is heavy metals, and a lot of people sort of overlook heavy metals, but our exposure to things like aluminum, between skincare products, toothpaste, cooking food in aluminum foil, over a lifetime, you build up these heavy metals. I tell the story a couple of weeks ago. We had a guy from California, looks like you, great shape, loves it, diets well. He goes, I eat fish 4 to 5 nights a week, have for years, but was feeling sluggish, had trouble sleeping, was having gut and bowel issues. And so we did a heavy metals test on him and found out that he has super high levels of mercury. And of course, that was attributed, unfortunately, to our fish stocks. Our food supply is contaminated. And he had a genetic abnormality where he couldn't clear toxins very well. And so it was building up in his liver. But again, here's a guy I look at, he perceives I'm eating salmon, 3 or 4 days a week. I run, I mountain bike, I work out. Yet there's these other factors that start to contribute to bad health. Another test that we run is called epigenetics. Epigenetics is I do it through your blood, and it's called circulating cancer cells or circulating tumors. So cancers, I can only detect cancers when I use my imaging technology when it's created a mass. Cancers start earlier than that, and you get free-floating cancer cells in your blood, and where they end up landing or metastasizing, no one knows. And so we start at that lowest level is, can I detect early signs of cancer in your blood, which is all treatable, but we caught it early before it actually impacted an organ or get in your lungs or your liver, things like that. So I want to look at your metabolic health, like how's it all working, the inside, I call it the plumbing, the plumbing and the electrical circuits. The third contributor is your genetic health, and we've talked about this, is that, the human body is a magical tool. And it's just like a high performance engine. If you put crappy gas into it, you get crappy performance. And so we believe wholeheartedly that any health journey, whether you're way at the end of it and trying to optimize, or you're just, hey, I've got to start on this journey, is that if we can get your body the right nutrients and the right supplements in the right amounts, your chances of immunity, cognitive function, cellular repair, all of the functions of the body, amino acid conversion, will just help you move along further and fight disease. The supplement market's an interesting market, the over-the-counter market. 74% of adults take supplements. Yet in surveys, 95% of those same people say, I don't know what to take, how much to take, what brand I should take, what form I should be taking. I just guess. I just sort of have a box full of stuff, and once a month or once a week I open a bottle and put a couple of pills in here and there, and quite frankly, if I miss it, I don't even know if I feel any different.
Yeah.
And it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry because we all intellectually want to feel better. It's easy to just buy the 2-for-1 off the shelf, but yet nobody knows if it's working. What we do is we use your DNA. So you inherit genes from your mother or your father, and that by using your DNA and gene sequencing that, we look at 103 biomarkers that are unique to you, and that will help us pinpoint exactly what you'll be deficient in, how much you need to supplement, in what formats. Everything's manufactured, non-GMO, plant-based materials, no heavy metals, no toxins, no microplastics. It's triple lab tested, so it's really the purest form of nutrients that you can absorb. But you know exactly what your body needs. You're taking what you need in the amount you need versus just this random guessing.
Yeah.
And so our programs are built around those three pillars, is your physical health, your metabolic health, and your genetic health.
Yeah, I mean, after going through all of these different tests and the gene test, I guess for myself, if we break down each one of these individually, you kind of gave a high level, but
Yeah.
go through each one. So like when it comes to somebody, if they don't know anything about the genetics test,
Right.
so walk us through, because it was a very simple process. And again, I call this kind of like the gateway to this process, because
Right.
it starts to open their eyes. It's a lower ticket item. I mean, it's $500-600-ish, give or take. And I mean, walk us through this. So if I want to have this gene test, you guys will send me the kit and then walk us through what happens.
Yeah, so you can go online, you can purchase the kit. We mail it to your home. It's a very simple. It's got a cheek swab, so there's two long Q-tips in there, and you scrape the inside of your cheek for a few minutes. And what we're trying to do is capture your cells. You get your DNA. We put that into a tube, the little test tube that's with the kit. There's a prepaid mailer, and it goes to our lab. Our lab takes about 2 to 3 weeks to analyze all of that. And from that data, we generate 14 reports. So we generate the first report as sort of a comprehensive view of what biomarkers may be out of sync. All of our reports are consciously written so anyone can read them. They're not, you don't have to be a laboratory science or genetic scientist. It's very clear on what parts of your body, what parts of your immunity, what part of your cellular strength does this affect. We then do 13 other reports that focus on metabolic health, weight management, cognitive function, fatigue, immune health. We also create dietary recommendations based on what deficiencies came up in your reports. From those reports, we use AI, and out of 4 million different combinations, we create a supplement specific to you. We compound it together. It comes in capsules, and you get it every month. And it's specific to you. I mean, it takes all the guesswork out of it. You can cancel anytime. One of the biggest questions we get asked is this private and confidential? A lot of people don't want to have their genetic information passed around or sold. We sell no information. All of our laboratory, all of our manufacturing are US based. A lot of the genetics companies out there, quite frankly, take your genetic samples and send it offshore to China, because China will process those samples for no charge so they can collect the DNA information. We don't do that. So very private, very confidential. But you now have a very actionable report that not only gets you on the right supplements, but makes all the dietary recommendations of things that you should be taking, how you should be eating. You should increase your fats, or you should increase your proteins, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of walking everybody through my experience. I did the same thing, did the swab, got the test back. I went one step further and just paid a little fee to have somebody interpret that for me. So we had 60 to 90-minute call. And what I love about it is I'm extremely into health and wellness for the past 20 years. And I was taking so many different pills. I mean, traveling with, and I have a bag for supplements and vitamins. And so now, I mean, to your point, I have the powder, which most people prefer the pill. I use a powder because I just mix a bunch of stuff together. But it's every month, it's on auto ship, it comes to my doorstep, it's got my name on it, so it's compounded for exactly what I needed. Like in my case, like many people have the mutation, what is it, MTHFR or?
MTHFR.
Yeah, so
there's 4 in the M series that really impact your health and how you methylate or how you process.
So speaking of that, there's a lot of people out there, like forever and ever, I was tired and sluggish in my late 20s and 30s. Had blood work with my practitioner, and the practitioner said, oh, well, you're D deficient and you're B deficient. So what did they do? They gave me a B supplement, which is just, they told me to take, a D supplement, and didn't give me any direction on where to get it. So what do? I go get the BS off of the grocery store.
Two for one at CVS.
I literally got the D supplement, and then they gave me injectable B12. And I took that for I don't know how many years. I'm poking myself once a week. Now coming to find out that my body is not absorbing that B12 because I need a methylated version. Is that correct? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that's what I say is that people have had a lifetime of deficiencies and things that are compromising that build up over time. I mean, you've been D deficient or B deficient your whole life. Yeah.
So it's wild, the fact that, and I guess jumping over to the next portion of this would be, you talked about the labs at a high level. And so I've been on TRT. I mean, I think everybody that's over 35 should at least be tested for their test levels, their hormones. Again, I was dragging, so the evolution of this was, well, you're B deficient, you're D deficient. I was still dragging. Well, we just found out why, because I'm taking...
Impacts hormone production.
Yeah, so, and then they gave me TRT, I did the test and I'm like, man, I'm 30 years old. Like, I don't need testosterone. That's for old men. My
Right.
testosterone was like 300. And so they put me on, the test supplement there. And with that, this kind of segueing into the lab work you talked about and you guys doing a higher level, because I would go since the age of 30, I'm 44 now. I would go and get labs every 3 to 4 months and they would just check. And here I'm thinking I'm going to be the healthiest. I mean, preventative like no other because I'm getting labs every 3 to 4 months. I'm going to know if there's ever anything screwed up in my body. But they're only checking for a few little markers there.
Right.
So with you
Yes.
guys, you're going, give me the difference between what a normal practitioner would pull on their labs versus the extent.
Your annual typical lab test that, if you go to a primary care physician, literally runs 20 to 25 biomarkers. And those are the basics. And here's a comment about blood work. Blood work is an incredibly useful tool for us. The shortcomings to blood work is that it only tells me what's happening at the time I took the blood. Our bodies are ever changing. And I used the example several years ago. I was going to my primary care physician, and I was running late, hair on fire, trying to find a parking spot, I'm just jamming, sucking down coffee. I get in there, the nurse goes and texts my blood pressure. She says, "Oh my God, your blood pressure's through the roof." Doctor walks in with his, 30 seconds of time to spend with me, said, "You've got high blood pressure. It's a little bit alarming. I'm going to put you on a statin," and walked out. And I was like, wait a minute. I just almost got hit by a car. I was running late. I just had 2 cups of coffee. I don't have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
But that's sort of the system. So when I look at, not only do I have 100 different biomarkers just in your blood, I can then say, geez, there's vitamin D deficient or you're vitamin B12 deficient. I now can reflex to your genetics report and say, well, wait a minute. Now I know why he's deficient. It's just not he's not eating well. He's not doing that properly. He's got a genetic deficiency that has to be addressed. We have to find him the right folated brand of processing of those types of food. And so again, it plays off on this parallax philosophy. Can I look at you from multiple points to really get the most accurate sort of assessment of what your health's really going through?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem is that you hit on this earlier, is that most people just chalk this up as the new norm, right? I'm getting older,
Right.
so naturally I'm older. Like I'm 44 now. Like I should.
Getting tired a little bit, don't work out as much as I did. We accept a new normal.
Yeah.
And, the CDC came out with a report last year. 6 in 10 adults in the U.S. have the onset of chronic disease and don't even know it. 4 in 10 have 2 or more.
Wow. Yeah. That's
And it's just an alarming thing out there. I was kind of joking when you said about objections. It's strange because I've seen guys, again, that drive exotic sports cars or have nice watches, have gotten to a point in their life where they can start to enjoy some of that stuff and think nothing. Don't think twice about it. Yet when it comes to our own health, we're like, God, a couple $1,000s to get this, testing, they just seem to put it off, which is just an odd thing. I was speaking in front of, I think I'd shared with this, I was speaking in front of a high net worth group, big investors, and they have meetings once a month and they talk investment strategies and wealth preservation and look at data and analyze investments and really go through it. And it's amazing to me for that type of individual, male or female, that look at risk mitigation, return on investment, cash flow analysis, look at the data, market threats, and they could react. Like if I told them there's an opportunity to buy a building in Cleveland, Ohio, that's just, perfectly situated, the owners are up against a wall, you'd be on a plane tomorrow flying there to go buy this building. Yet when we talk about our own health to investing a half a day and coming down and see us, it's every excuse in the world, even though the mounds of data is in front of you. A person dies every 33 seconds from heart disease. There's 2,000 people a day, 2 airlines full of people die of cancer.
Yeah, that's insane. You actually referencing that about going to Dallas and taking the trip, very similar. I mean, it took, I started with Peak doing the gene test, and then it took a couple of months because I was busy, right? But a perfect example, this is after I had the test done. I had a deal. Obviously, we do RV parks. I had a Class A RV
Right.
park, a new development that came up, 103 lots, exactly what we look for in Fort Worth. Great returns. We had underwrote the deal. We received the deal in my inbox. We underwrote it that day, and I was at that property in Dallas within 15 hours, right? Like there was no debating. There's no like, well, shit, I'm busy. I don't know if I can get.
Yeah, God.
But it took me months to finally schedule everything with Peak there. So that's huge. What about the heavy metals? Is one of those that I'm pretty in tune with my fitness and wellness, but I did the heavy metal test, and I still am diving into this with your docs. But I mean, heavy metals, like I came back, I don't even know everything, but one of the ones I was like high on aluminum. And so, talk to me about because everybody hears heavy metal, they're like, well, what does it mean? Like, if I'm high in any of these metals, what's the?
Well, a lot of these heavy metals and these toxins store in your fat and store in your liver. And they start to, once they build up, they start to really impact our health. And again, aluminum's the biggest one because it's in hairspray, skin creams, toothpaste, suntan lotion. But there's all sorts of heavy metals that we get exposed to. Again, microplastics and toxins within all the plastics that we eat. Geez, we've been cooking and heating food. I grew up on microwave, TV dinners.
Full of plastic trays.
Yeah. It's all in aluminum, and so again, just little portions of that over a lifetime end up, and then furthermore, when I look at your genetics, like when we do your genetic test, I can tell if you have genetic deficiencies that compromise how you process toxins. So again, I look at correlated data and say, well, wait a minute, he's got a toxin buildup. Is it just poor choices or just exposures that he's had? Or does he have a genetic deficiency that doesn't allow him properly? So we've got to modify what types of foods, what type of fish, what type of proteins you take in. And just most people overlook it because it's in everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have that same scenario where my body, because of I guess the genetic makeup, my body's not, processing or fighting off those heavy
Yeah,
metals.
you don't clear your toxins well,
Yeah.
and it's a genetic deficiency. And again, these are inherited from one or both parents.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like for example, we scan for lung cancer, and I had a guy in a couple of weeks ago and said, you don't have to do that. I've never smoked in my life. And I said, okay. I said, so you've never been exposed to pollutants? I said, 37% of all lung cancer deaths, which is one of the leading killers, never smoked in their life.
Wow.
I mean, I'm a lot older than you are, but I didn't smoke. I've never smoked in my life, but both my parents smoked growing up. I was the kid in the back seat
Yeah. Getting ashed on.
until I was 17 or 18, begging for them to crack the window.
Yeah.
They smoked in the house. It was that sort of generational thing. I worked in the bars for years, and I mean, sucked in smoke. I had a guy come in and said, again, great shape, really look a specimen of health. Came in and said, I've never smoked, but he was a baggage handler at American Airlines for 12 years. And just never equated the fact that he was sucking in exhaust fumes and chemicals and fuel every day for 15 years. So all the working out and all the diet and exercise just can't overcome some of the environmental exposures. I have kids that were in agriculture business. I've got kids that grew up on a farm. I've got kids that were in oil and gas business. I've got kids that worked at loading docks, as part-time work while they were going to college. And you're breathing in diesel fumes and gasoline and exhaust fumes, and you've got packages coming in. Environmental exposures is one of the leading contributors to cancers and heart disease. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. What about just kind of wrapping this up? So gut biome. I did the gut biome test. That one I'm
Did
still
you
waiting
good?
on. I'm waiting on the. Yeah, we did all the scans. I did the heavy metals. I did obviously the gene test, gut biome, food allergy. And I can talk about some of my results in a second, but just to educate everybody, gut biome, what are you guys testing for? What are you looking for? What is this doing?
Well, it's really the way your gut or your body processes food properly or improperly.
Hmm.
Um, we talk about fiber. A lot of people take probiotics and they tell you to get good probiotics because some people have a system. If we look at, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I sort of know this stuff. If you look how we process food, we ingest food, we crunch it with our teeth, it goes into our stomach, we wash it with acid, we're trying to break it down into its parts. It then enters our small intestines. And once it gets into our small intestines, into our gut, it then starts to break down, hopefully, into amino acids, and then it goes into the cellular, and it feeds our mitochondria, it feeds all of our
Hmm.
cells, and everything like that. Well, some people have a poor gut biome, meaning that the biology within their gut, their lower intestines, their small intestines, I mean, isn't processing food properly and converting that. And so we can test for that dysfunction and recommend to you what types of fiber supplements, because there's about 4 different styles or types, water soluble and things like that. And we'll recommend to you what to take to get your gut into regulation, if you would.
Yeah, that's huge. So I did the test. I already actually received the supplements prior to receiving
Good.
just kind of some of the cleanse supplements. But for me, 20 plus years of eating healthy, eating really clean 90% of the time, worried about, how much protein I'm ingesting, all the macros, really dialing that in,
Right.
not knowing what your body is doing with that, you're just kind of pissing away all that effort unless you are really dialed in there. So that was huge to me because, you might be looking to gain muscle mass and here your body's not.
There's really, and I'm not just saying this because of us, we have not found or identified another clinic out there that is doing as comprehensive work as we are. And I want to be clear is, and you went through it, I think part of the fear is all this testing is like you're going to be poked and prodded and injected and subject to some sort of torment.
Yeah.
And it's really not. I mean, blood work is blood work. You're going to get that anywhere. It's a
Yeah.
blood draw. Your gut biome is a wipe,
Hmm.
to be bold. Your DNA is a cheek swab. The scanning takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I can get from start to finish, I can scan your entire body in less than 10 minutes. What takes time is then for us to sit down with the doctors and analyze all of that data with you. And then we do some other peripheral testing. We can even do things like red light therapy and things like that sort of round out sort of this health journey. Our clinic doesn't, like our clinic down in Houston, it doesn't look like a doctor's office. We don't see sick patients in there. You're not going to sit in a waiting room full of other people coughing and sneezing and, thumbing through the same dirty magazines. We see 3 or 4 patients a day, so it's a very VIP, private sort of concierge time. And so it's a real different experience than what people may perceive. And I think some of the people put off doing this because it's like, oh my God, I'm going to be just run from test to test and poked with
Yeah.
things. And it's really not that way, or at least
No,
I
I mean,
don't.
my perspective is lab work, right? You guys send the lab requests. I got my labs done here in my local market, right? So in San
Right.
Antonio. As far as the test, it blew me away because my wife and I both did a lot of these tests. I went full tilt on, way more than she did out of the gates because I was, coaxing her into coming in. But I mean, I think we did all those tests. We were both in and out, hour and a half. I mean, it was shocking
Yeah,
what that was.
when people come to our Houston office, we usually do is say, first of all, you can be in Houston, Texas, from anywhere in the country in less than 3 hours.
Hmm.
That's number one. So what a lot of our people do is that they'll work a day. At the end of the day, they'll take a flight out. They fly to Houston. We're right at the medical center, right by the Galleria. There's beautiful hotels, great restaurants, great shopping. Go get a good meal. We'll pick you up in the morning, spend a half a day with us. You can fly home and be home before dinner the next day.
Yeah. I mean, somebody really could turn this in one day easily, no
Yes.
matter where they are.
If you're an adjoining, we have people all the time. I had a couple just fly in from Kansas. They came in the morning, got there at the clinic by like 9 o'clock in the morning. They left at 2 o'clock. They
Yeah.
were home for dinner.
And the other side of this that I like is you talked about the VIP treatment. I'm working with Ashley. I know you guys have a lot of different
She's the
nurses
best.
and practitioners that help out, but this is not calling the office. I have a question, like this is the best. I mean, I'm texting her. She pings me back. And
She's the best, that's
yeah,
for
and the way
sure.
us entrepreneurs work, like we want answers now, 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 right? And so it's not that obviously you guys can't promise that, but the experience was amazing when it comes to the responsiveness. If I need something, hey, I missed an email. Can you guys help me out with this? Boom, it's in my inbox right away. So it's been really great.
Well, and that's one of the things. Sorry to interrupt you on that. We spent about a year and a half trying to identify what's sort of wrong with it. And the biggest part is some of us, I mean, if I'm going to do this, I want someone to talk to, like explain it to me like I'm a person. Help me understand. I want to know. And I know when I call like a regular doctor's office, first of all, I'm stuck in a queue. I've got to listen to 9 different prompts.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't really know I know I'm not a doctor. I know I don't want to up my medication. I just want to talk to someone. Like, I just want to ask a question. And they're so inaccessible. And we've tried very, very hard to overcome that because you want information.
Yeah.
It's just, I just want to ask a question. And it's like, is it so hard to ask if I can talk to a doctor or talk to a nurse? I mean, Ashley's a 22, 23-year nurse. She loves this stuff.
Very
I
passionate.
mean, she's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess before we wrap here, and I'm kind of going into this blind. I'm not sure if you guys offer this, but I'm really involved in obviously we talked about TRT, but I'm really heavy into peptides and have been for many years now. Are you guys offering, I mean, for me, this was more of the wellness. So you're doing TRT, you can do peptides, which I like because it's like, if you have all these different consultants, if you have like in the real estate world, if I've got a tax attorney, a tax strategist, a CPA, a lawyer, all these different individuals, I'm
None of
having
them
to kind of
talk.
yeah, exactly. I'm having to be the glue to keep them all together. So for me, what's beneficial is you guys have all of my stuff, right? And there's no reason for me to get testosterone and all these different peptides from an
No,
outside source.
we have pharmacy relationships, and again, when you do your one-on-one call to review, you're talking to an MD, you're talking to a doctor, and they'll come through and make recommendations, or you can, because again, we're going to look at your hormone levels. We're also going to see whether you have propensity. So we do. We have a lot of our clients that have gone on to using semaglutide, peptides for weight management. There's a lot of people that are caught into this cycle. They go to a doctor, and the first thing the doctor says, you need to lose weight and exercise. And you walk out of there scuffling under your breath going, I don't have the energy, to get to the gym to lose the weight. I've tried to diet, it's not working. I've tried 12 different diets. And it's like, well, because they never understood, they've got that belly fat, they can't lose the weight, they don't have the energy because they have some genetic deficiencies that's popping up in their blood. And so they're stuck in this sort of like, how do I get to the gym and exercise and eat better if I can't, I still can't get rid of the belly fat. So yeah, we supplement with all sorts of, make recommendations on all sorts of other things. Like you said, testosterone, a lot of males, I was shockingly low when I got mine done. And I was like, crazy.
Yeah.
But we can help arrange all of that for you.
Yeah. So really, I like that and I'm learning more on this call, but it's a one-stop shop because when I had my interpretation of all of the tests I did, they gave me lists of supplements. And not only I want everybody to hear this because I'm pretty anal about this stuff. Not only did they say, hey, you need to take XYZ supplement, not only did they say you need to get this brand, like there's a portal that I go on there and they loaded all of the links, everything, where I had to click one button and enter my credit card. And the supplements actually were cheaper than a lot of the stuff that I'd been buying in the past there. And so it was just kind of a one-stop shop there. So that was, really appealing for me. I noticed on mine, I mean, I'm 44, but I'm 6'2", probably 201 pounds, 7% body fat. Like I never thought that I would have high cholesterol because of my diet, but there's some things that there was, high cholesterol, a little bit of, well,
T3,
picking up.
T4.
Yeah, and then there's some a little bit of buildup in my heart and certain areas there, and they said, well, it's not like what is it, the Widowmaker or
Right.
it wasn't that, but they said, hey, this is just something that we just need to be mindful of and look at that I would have never known. And just like you, David, you're like before you got your test, you're like, man, I'm
Right.
healthy, like my heart is fine. So just to have all that preventative, have the knowledge.
Well, now you know what to keep an eye on and maybe make, again, modifications to your diet, getting on the right supplements in the right format.
Yeah,
So much of it's interplayed. It's things like a lot of people get diagnosed with hypothyroidism and think they have trouble with their thyroid when they're not looking at the root cause. It's actually stemming from issues in your liver based on how you methylate certain foods and process certain foods. So,
yeah,
again, I can't impress upon people how giving giving this parallax view when we're looking at physical health, metabolic health, and genetic health, and then looking at it all and counteracting, like look at their blood work and then look at your genetics, or look at your genetics as, boy, if there's genetic deficiency here, is it translating itself into his metabolic health? You've got this sort of yin, and you've got the ability for us to look at so many different markers that I think we were up to like 380 different biomarkers we assess you on.
yeah, yeah. Well, I would say just for the guys and gals that are out there listening, if you're like me, right, you're busy, you don't want an extra thing on your to-do list. Again, I've kind of gone through the steps of what I went through, how from the interpretation to the supplements to the diet. I mean, everything is kind of lined out there for you. And so you know how to march forward, even on the side of like the cancer scans and the brain scans. I asked Ashley because I've like hired 10x Health and all these other companies, which they'll send you the results, but there's no follow up in the customer service. Oh my gosh, on 10x Health, I can't even. I mean, I won't even get into that. But it was a nightmare going through that process. So you guys kind of walked me through everything.
Yeah, well, even guys that I really love and enjoy, guys like Gary Brecken.
Yeah, yeah.
We just love listening to him. It's like I just want to sit there fascinated with him. They only check, like on the genetic side, he talks about have 4 genes tested for. We do 103. So
Yeah.
when I talk about taking it to the next step, we're looking at all sorts of other biomarkers, not just the methylated ones, the B vitamins. And so, again, I would challenge anyone to find a more comprehensive, sort of inclusive program. We've had articles written about us in USA Today, healthcare business journals. We won an award last year as the top longevity provider. I tell everyone is if you are starting on a health journey, or even partway through it, the marketplace is very fragmented. There's, like, am I doing red light therapy? Am I doing hormone replacement? Am I doing peptides? Should I take this magic formula the guy said is the fountain of youth? It's all fragmented, and no one's putting it all together for you. And we talk about it. If you are gotten yourself resolved to getting in a healthcare journey, we're sort of the gateway to healthcare. And I'll just leave you with this, and where it dawned on me. We went to a conference called A4M. A4M is the world's largest biohacking conference for longevity. It's like everybody and their brother. And there was about 400 vendors behind me where our booth was, all telling me they had the fountain of youth. You got to buy this. This is the magic formula. Look at all the stories. And the first thing that came to mind, I said, well, they all can't be true because none of us would be here if they all had the fountain of youth. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing is it dawned on me, not one of them knew anything about me yet told me their one size fits all product is going to fix everything for me. And then, like, you and I are so different, from genetic history to metabolic history to our lifestyle choices to our genetic history. How can a one-size-fits-all approach work for anybody?
Yeah, no, that's so true. Everybody's got the magic pill or the snake oil.
Got it. I've got a cupboard full of them. I've tried them all. you know?
the beginning of time. Well, David, man, I appreciate your time. What we're going to do is I will drop all of your peak longevities links and emails and contact numbers and all that stuff. So
Call,
anybody that's
call us,
interested,
ask questions, kick the tires. Just don't delay. I mean, don't go through regret.
yeah. And I will say, just wrapping this up, guys, they'll walk you through this. You can give them your concerns. They'll give you the list. And you can kind of a la carte, right? So you can pick off certain things that you'll prioritize based on, whatever your needs are there. So
Yeah, we have people that put their toe in, if you would, but get an overview.
Yeah.
And then based on the results, if we see markers in there, we may recommend, you know what, you should go to a level 2 metabolic panel. You should go the next level deeper because you've got some warning signs. So there's some people want to say, look, I want to do it all, get it over with. I want to know. I got, it's like this monkey I've been carrying around, like, I should do it, I shouldn't. Some people just, I want to do it like yourself. I want to go in, check it all for me. Some people say, look, I just want to start. Let me start on the supplements, for example.
yeah. Well, man, I'm excited. I went to Dallas because
Good.
I happened to be in Dallas for a mastermind
Right.
meeting. But I'm excited to come and see Houston and see if there's any other tests that I haven't done. So hopefully we'll catch up soon, and maybe we'll do
right,
another
brother.
interview over in the Houston office, and we'll kind of walk through some of the modalities as well too. So
Sounds great.
appreciate your time, brother. Thanks so much,
All
man.
right, my friend.
Take
Be
care.
good. Be healthy.
Thank you. Bye
All right,
bye.
brother.